the dashboard up ready. Alright, so hey everyone, this is Pee-wee from Definitive Esports doing another Chobo2Gosu with my co-host on, and unfortunately I don't have my webcam, so you can just only see an image of me. So yeah, that'll have to do it, and then next week we'll definitely have it back and ready to go. So yeah, this episode is going to be TVZ, which is obviously what's next on the line, and the next week's episode will be TVT. And it's going to be quite a lot of fun, especially for An, because these are the races he's played most with, so he's going to be very comfortable.
Oh, indeed. Yes, indeed. Although, it was interesting because Zerg was my main for a very long time, and I guess probably still is, and I've tried to play some more Terran recently, but when I first started to play Terran, my worst matchup was TVZ for the longest time. I could do fine in TVT and TVP, but it was so strange. There was something about TVZ that, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but I felt like I would easily get overwhelmed, or would play too defensive and would just get out macroed, and so I struggled for quite a while trying to figure out, how do I play from the other side. So that's been interesting.
Yeah, definitely, and that was excuse me there. And that's something that will definitely help you as a player if you play the different races, understand the mental thought that goes behind the actions that they take, and really help you mind game them. Really, it comes down to strategy. It doesn't really make you a better player by much. It's all about the mental game then.
Exactly.
And it's I've been playing Terran recently, and it's been quite fun. I'm using tanks now as well.
Yep.
I'm getting there. I had like a 45-minute game against a Terran plat.
Nice. So TVT?
Yeah.
Marine tank?
Yep.
See, those are my favorite kind of games. All about positioning.
Strange, you just kind of like have to wait. You just like chilling.
Yep.
But in the end, my superior macro kind of whittled them down. Where are you? Where are you? There you are. Invite to game.
Thank you.
Oh, I was gonna say you're tiring, but it doesn't matter. This. So yeah, guys. Pretty much we're gonna do what we do every week. We're gonna jump into some unit tests to look at some compositions, some strengths of the Terran units via the Zergs, and how you can get the most out of them. And then, of course, we'll just go in and play against the AI and do basic unit competitions and just show you what you kind of want to be doing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I mean, very typical, but it's I think it works. I think we've talked about this before. I think it works well to sort of see the units on their own a little bit and then bring them into context.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually a good way to put it.
And I'm the slow loader.
I know, bloody hell, son.
Yeah, it's my internet. What can I do?
Is this your first game, StarCraft? For your PC?
Wait, go over that question completely. You mean is StarCraft the first game I?
No, is this the first game of StarCraft you played? Because if it's the first game, it always takes a bit longer to load.
Oh, true. Yeah, actually, it is for me. It is for the past couple days.
Yeah,
and
that's why
school gets in the way.
Yeah, and that's why that unit preloader thingy came out. Do you know what I'm on about?
Oh, yes. Actually, I haven't tried that.
You haven't tried it? It's really strange. It's like I went in as a replay to watch it just so I could understand what was going on. It's pretty much it's like a huge, ginormous map with all the units in many different ways, and it'll just cycle through everything. The camera will move for you, and it'll build everything, and everything dies. Then everything dies to fire, then acid, then nukes and stuff like that.
Huh.
And just cycle through it.
So that's okay. I might need to start doing that because it is taking me such a long time. That's good to remember.
I have it in my favorites, but my computer's pretty good, so I never use it.
Yeah, well, some of us aren't quite as awesome. Or some of our computers aren't quite as awesome. Mine is a little lackluster.
Jeez.
I know. Probably could help if let me see if I can give it some extra processing power. Don't need all this other stuff I have up. Yeah, I don't know why I don't actually know why it's taking so long, but while we're waiting, maybe talk a little bit about, maybe,
not
yeah, so,
loading.
there we go, now I think I'm finally finishing. There we go.
Way. And that is the end of tonight's episode.
Yep, and we're
Yeah,
done.
we're done. Alright, so,
Alright.
okay, we are in.
Upgrade complete.
Get
Do you
started.
want to, which side do you want to take Terran and I'll take Zerg?
Yeah, and we'll swap it back and forth like we
Okay.
normally do. Because I'm sure
Yep.
there's things you would want to show me, and yeah, like even the Terran. Alright, so should we talk, we'll talk about like the most basic of unit compositions, which is, well, just the most basic units rather. Of course, you will always get the Marines first, Marines to the most basic unit, blah blah blah, etc. etc. But when you look at what the Zerg has is Zerglings, which my co-host is now bringing up to fight. Zerglings are a melee unit, and of course Marines are a range unit, so they get more effective in the bigger numbers. Like, well, even if you were to use all of them, I guess speed.
I'm on it. Of course.
That's my crew.
By the number. You
Beautiful.
gonna give me orders?
Beautiful.
You got it.
Yep, so with strong micro against slow lings, it's
Can't wait.
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
really easy to minimize damage,
Armed and ready.
as Pew demonstrates both the split and the stutter step.
Sir.
And so because they're melee and Pewee stutter steps well, you can already pick off a couple before they can even touch any of his units. When you're up against slow lanes, which is usually the first 5 minutes or so. 5, 6
Absolutely,
minutes.
and of course, early game in small numbers, the Marines normally win. It gets really tricky because, of course, the more Marines, or sorry, the lower the count, the higher the chance of the Zerglings, because like there's more surface area to less amount of Marines, whereas like if I have like this many Marines and ball them up, only the outside Marines can get hurt. So it's just like it's a very long
Yep. I
long
should probably
activity.
make the match a little more fair.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Get speed as well. Just to like if you want to fight like
Who wants some?
a couple Marines like this,
Armed and ready.
All right.
like you'll see.
Got it.
You know, even if I try to micro step, it just nothing happens.
Right, because I got the full surround.
Orders? Keep your
But
shirt on, Sparky.
I know obviously you have to look at maths, and obviously more Marines means more, but it scales much better for the Marines than the Zerglings, and it becomes
Yes.
even more in your favor. There is I can't remember what it's called, but there is a mathematical equation with the name for what this is called.
This better be good.
Same thing applies to Zalots. I remember someone saying it on Reddit.
Makes sense. Yeah, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but that would. This, I mean, you can make a lot of. You can turn a lot of this into math.
Yeah, because
Uh,
it's just like the amount of surface area per Marine as the ball gets bigger, gets smaller. So there is like that's it's just like the scale of efficiency is massive. The larger they get.
Why not?
Even this ball is just like lol.
yeah.
Just absolutely nothing. And then of course the next step up is probably the Marines' biggest enemy.
No speed or speed.
Maybe no speed at first because I'm not very good at microing.
Okay.
Really. I don't play Terran enough to know exactly how to do it. And like you rarely see Banes as a Protoss.
True.
It's like, hey, you just exploded little Banes in my stalkers. Well done. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I was actually. It's funny because I was thinking about today's episode, so I was actually trying to figure out what's the optimal way to split your Marines.
Yeah.
Still need to practice.
It used
All
to
right,
be
ready?
it used to be a patrol move, but now it kind of changed
Gonna give me
a bit.
orders?
I'm ready.
Okay,
Been
I'm
waiting.
just gonna 1A in. Right, so the Zerg play, you're seeing the Marines have to deal with the Zerglings first because the Zerglings are faster, and so it protects the Banelings that are coming behind, and there you go.
Yeah. And then I didn't really have stim, so let's have
Yeah.
some more fun now. So by the time Banelings come out, or Banelings and Speedlings come out, you should kind of have at least one of these upgrades, which is Combat Shield and Stim. Stim is nice because it makes you able to outrun Banelings and stuff like that, but if you Stim and then take a Baneling hit, you die in one shot, so it's nice to have the Combat Shield just to stop it being a one-hit kill.
Right.
You gonna give me
Right.
orders?
Here I go.
Oh yeah.
I still have no way to do this effectively.
Alright, so that's sort of like a really early aggression you would see. A little bit slightly later would be Lings, Speedlings, and Speed Banelings.
Boy. Armed and big. You can move. This better be. Armed and by the numbers, boy. This better be. You gonna give me who wants some?
Make a few more Banes.
Just thinking that too.
Yeah, that looks good.
By the
Ready?
numbers, boys.
Yeah.
Roger that.
I'm just gonna try and micro now.
Tempo. Been waiting. This better be good. Been waiting.
So I still do damage, but you saw with the splits, the Banes become much less effective.
Yeah. This time, do you want to have like a ridiculous amount of Banes? 'Cause
Just
it does
Banes or Ling Bane?
Limb Bane, but like an absurd amount of Banes. These Circlings.
Want a piece of me, boy?
Because I also had like a ridiculous amount of Marines there. Like we're kind of looking at these fights a bit like you would never see these fights really because of the amount of units that I have. Comparison to his, really, it would be like a crap ton of Zerglings if I had this many Marines.
This is true, yeah, it's a bit lopsided, but
Yeah.
Will do.
Oh shit! I didn't even see them.
Sure.
I didn't even see the massive group below them. I was like, oh okay, I've won. And then it's like dun, 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 dun.
that's how I win. It caught you off guard.
Of course,
Alright,
and then it gets a bit tricky. There's many different ways for like a Zerg and a Terran to play out the TVZ. You know, they can go biomech, or they can just go pure mech. But we're gonna be sticking to more traditional stuff, things that,
yeah,
as a newer player, you're gonna be doing more, which is pretty much bio.
I was thinking there's sort of bio mech and then a little bit of bio mech with marine tank.
Yeah.
And then you can get sort of wonky from there.
Of course, we can look at different units. We have things like the Marauder now, which are very heavy, chunky units. They take a lot. They're armored, so it takes a few more Banelings to kill them because they don't have the bonus. They were stacked there, so you can see that.
They're stacked, but they still survive.
Yeah,
And if those had been Marines, they would have got torn to shreds instantly, very easily. So Marauders are great for taking damage.
Yep. On the other hand, they do, of course, more damage per armored unit, so things like Zerglings and Banelings don't really benefit as much, and they have a bigger surface area. So against Zerglings, they don't, higher number of Marauders don't really make much of a difference like the Marines do.
By the numbers, boys.
And so we just have a little bit of a unit composition fight. Because normally what you see happen is, if it's marine bio, just bio, sorry, the things like the marauders are what you want. You want the Banelings to explode on the marauders because like they'll be more cost and efficient. And of course, the marines are dealing the damage because they're the higher DPSs. And it leads to some micro fights because, of course, you normally just pull back all your marines and leave the marauders just there fighting, while you kite and split the marines.
Affirmative. That's mine. Been waiting on you. This better
Trashed. Well done.
Yeah.
by the this better be good.
It's always harder to see what's a really fair fight, especially for my non-matchup. For those who don't know, I'm a pro wrestler, so of course, like this is the only matchup that I really, well, like I don't know like the mirror matchups, but that's something we don't look at as much in depth. But
Yep.
like this just isn't really my matchup, so
Armed and ready.
things just confuse me a bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
This better be good.
Whereas last week's episode, I like. You know, last week's
Yeah.
episode with like the Protoss and the Terra, and it's so much easier to compare to such a funky matchup. What are you doing with all these spines?
I don't know. I just accidentally made a drone. I forgot the drones don't get used up when you made a spine. I was trying to get rid of it. Alright, well, if you're going to just...
You got it.
I wanted to kill the spine crawlers,
Oh.
By the numbers, boy.
but do this.
Of course. Gangway. Coming. Will do. Oh, yeah.
Insta-banelings!
I do love Insta-Banes. And... So then should, yeah. Get overrun. I mean, that's one of the things, sort of, the other thing to think about when facing Zerg is that, especially if you're engaging towards your half of the map and far away from their base, often you're not dealing with one army, you're dealing with two armies. You're dealing with the army in front of you, the Zerg army in front of you, but also the army that's going to come from all the larvae that they're probably storing up back home, especially towards the late game.
Yeah.
So that is, as opposed to, you send two Terran armies head to head, when they're dead, you're both dead and they rebuild from scratch. Zerg works differently, where it's also, for Zerg players, especially in late game, it's really easy to rebuild that army instantly. So being cost effective with the Terran is a lot more useful.
Yeah.
Alright,
And I don't
charge.
know. What do you think? Do you think you should get infestors?
Yeah, I was just going to get investors.
Get some infestors banes. So this is kind of like your average composition for a Terran. It does vary. Sometimes you'll see Hellions or more tanks, etc., etc., some medevacs. But this is kind of, you have the Marine Marauder to deal with the ground, especially Marines if there's muralisks. Definitely get them. And then of course Marauders just to what's the word? Tank, that's the one I could think then. Tank some damage from some units, and then of course tanks themselves will pick off Banelings. That's the main goal, or the infestors if they get in range.
Alright. Should I move in?
Yeah.
By the numbers, boys.
Wait, what?
You're going to die.
You borrowing? That's a.
No, that's lucky.
I roll in.
Nah, I should have won that hands down. That was very silly of me. So tanks are really great for defensive posturing because they do that AoE damage. So when you have units, you're dealing with units that going up against units that clump really easily, like the Ling or the Baneling, you can get rid of a lot of them very quickly. So what I was doing as a Zerg player, although I totally screwed it up because I wasn't controlling my army properly, was tanks, while they deal a lot of damage and do AoE damage, they have a slow rate of fire. So I threw out some infested Terrans to draw fire, and then while the tanks were recharging, I run in with my Lings, and I don't have to worry about the AoE then. If I do it right. What are you doing?
No, don't build Zerglings. I just wanted to look kill all my.
Ah.
I stunned them to death, apart from one. I want to see how
Still,
well they
still a
do.
lot of marauders. I think you'll actually. Maybe
No,
you will.
they were all getting one-shotted.
They would last a little bit longer. Okay.
I was gonna say, yeah, those are kind of the main compositions, and as you were saying, like, there's no real good example to show tanks. You know, like the downfall of tanks and their splash and their
Yeah,
range
I'll,
than
I'll,
infested terrains.
I'll go without infested terrans then, just dueling Bane.
Oh, well, I was gonna say get loads of infestors and
Oh, okay.
just to show an example, because this is game breaking. Like, if you can do stuff like this against a tank lineup, you can make your chances of winning the fight so much more efficient.
What's our target? What's that? Me. What's that? Need something loaded up? Got no patience for sitting around.
Do you have infestors? Yeah.
So one of the things you do have to be careful of with Terran players is tanks are good because they deal AoE damage. Problem is, if you can, your opponent can get some infested Terrans around. Uh, tanks, when they, will still hit other tanks if they're close by. So
And make some more infestors. We'll do it again.
Got no patience. Lay it on. Go ahead. What's that? Got no patience. Speak up.
We'll add in some extra bio.
Give us your best shot. What's our target? What's that? You're gonna get me by the number. Armed and ready. This better be good. Go, go, go! Gangway.
let me know when you're ready.
Who wants some?
There's a lot of marines.
It's a
Ready.
lot of Marines.
Of course, he takes a lot of eggs because the marines are killing the eggs at the same time. You see, a lot of damage is still being dealt with free units.
Good. This is free units. It only costs us
Free
their energy.
Die! And there's about don't even no. Just so many festers.
Well, it is 21 infestors.
Scum. Alright, so yeah, that is just we're not gonna go into super late game, Ravens v Broodlords and all that random crap because by that level, if you're watching this and you're not you're not very good at the game, it's not gonna matter how much information you know because it's gonna be all too confusing for you.
The two things I would say real quick, like if you're playing bio or playing mech, you're the two opposite ends. If you're playing bio, bio's really really mobile. You can harass really easily. You can be aggressive very early on. But against the Zerg player, with your bio ball, if your opponent gets a fungal on you and is able to lock you down, you can lose all your units instantly. So it's harder to deal with a lot of AOE. On the reverse, if you're just going just bio without tanks. Reverse hand, if you're doing mech is great because it's really easy to defend and you can make this huge, gigantic, strong push after you've got to under 200. But the thing you have to be careful of is if your opponent goes really fast air, unless you rush Thors, you can be vulnerable to air, fast air aggression from the Zerg player. So
Yeah.
those are sort of like big things to keep in mind if you choose whichever style you choose to go with.
And that's very true, and that's kind of why you see people who go mech turtle harder because if you go mech, you don't, you go Hellion, you start off with a few Marines and then you go into Hellions and then you start building tanks and then you go into Thors. But of course, tanks and Hellions don't, shoot air. So if you end up getting attacked by Mulisks, you can find yourself in a very tight situation. So that's why you normally see, mech players turtle. It's because they need the turrets to defend themselves, and of course if they move out into the map, they're very limited by not attacking air or stuff like that.
Exactly.
All right, are you ready?
I'm the observer, so I am quite ready.
You
I
are.
don't have to
I'm
do any of the
confused.
hard work.
Nope.
Yes.
Alright, so Zerg Terran. And yeah, I'm gonna go standard bio. Of course,
Okay.
we are playing against the AI, so we know what's coming.
Right.
Just roaches. Roaches. Maybe some hydras, but mainly roaches.
Exactly.
Exactamundo. I may open with like that concussive shell build that I done. Such a cool build. It worked well.
Actually,
It worked well.
that's,
Kicked ass
yeah.
against the Protoss.
What's going?
And
Yeah,
if they go in roaches, then even better.
Not enough minerals.
this is true.
Not enough minerals.
But they might go circle it, like a few
Not enough
circlings.
minerals. Not enough minerals.
SCV ready.
Not enough
All
minerals.
right.
Huh?
So what things are you focusing on as a Terran player going you
Not
starting the
enough
game? What
minerals.
things are you
Not enough minerals.
Um, I guess
worried
that's
about?
that's an interesting question. Myself, I just know I know like roughly what Taran likes to do, so I'm just kind of guessing like a new player would have to do. But of course, behind this I have good
Not
mechanics
enough
and
minerals.
Right.
control and multitasking, so I can pull it off pretty well. But I just know that
Not enough
I'm gonna
minerals.
go for an in-base expansion because I haven't played this too well, so I don't know exactly how fast the roaches will attack or exactly how I should deal with it. But marauders, I believe, are good against them,
Mm-hmm.
so that's something I'm just gonna aim for. So I think maybe gasless FE. Oh, I don't know. Maybe
So you're trying to find a balance between defense and econ.
yeah.
You're not playing to be aggressive, but you want to be able to keep yourself alive and still get an edge in economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if I went concussive shells, that would be good because if he did go roaches, that'd be in a strong point. But economically, I'm around even. Whereas if I go for an in-base expansion, then follow it up with the same build, should kind of have the same outcome, but maybe a bit more more eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think of the word then while doing this, and I'm not gonna scout. I can't bother with scout.
So lazy. Well, that's okay. It's the AI. So. Now, you plan to do, if you, we're playing against the AI, so we know aggression is coming, but let's just pretend you scout and see that there's when you scout, you'll see there's a really early roach swarm going down. I mean, that always happens.
Yeah.
So, you see that, what's your reaction? Are you going to build bunkers? Are you just going to immediately throw up additional barracks?
Definitely bunkers.
Upgrade complete.
Okay, and when you put them up, can you talk a little bit about, and since you're playing, I'll try and help as well, about the positioning of the bunkers?
Depending on when he
Not enough
attacks,
minerals.
if I feel like I have enough time, I'll put them maybe right back here at my natural. The AI's made a mistake already with this overload, so I won't kill it because you shouldn't really get an overload like that.
Insufficient Vespine gas.
True, but I mean it's a free overlord.
Fine.
You're very generous. These things don't come along often.
So I got 2 Marines. Just that. This is what I'm going to use to get my scouting information because I don't feel like they're going to be so important.
Yep. And the big thing about overlord is the reason why I was nagging Pew to go grab it is because early game, as a Zerg player,
That's
it's going to be
Yeah.
huge because you're only building overlords when you absolutely have to, right? So if you can, and overlords represent the supply depots for Zerg. So if you can kill an overlord really early game like that, you delay everything they do because that's another 100 minerals, that's another larva. That means if you're lucky, like Pew did, you're able to supply block them so they can't build anything else until they build another overlord.
Insufficient
And all for you, it just takes a couple Marines that you were building anyway. So hunting them early on is really useful. Later on, late game, not quite as much, because towards the mid to late game,
insufficient
Zerg will
Vespine
sometimes
gas.
have a couple extra overloads, so killing one won't do much. But early game, it can set a Zerg back a lot, especially a Zerg that's trying to go for early aggression and needs to maximize their larva.
Bad news.
And Pewie's going to put on some aggression.
Yeah. Well, I saw it was only roaches. and a couple of Marines just to deal out some extra damage, maybe tank some damage. Um, but I can out micro my opponent because I have Concussion Shells, which just kicked in, so that's very nice.
Orders received.
I like Concussion Shells.
Go ahead.
Don't we all? I don't see, this is not a build I see that often, but I may have outside of you doing it, but it does seem to work pretty well.
Armed and ready.
The unit should be right by there. Oh,
Coming through.
of course, there's so many roaches that they just,
Right.
like,
Yeah,
like,
you
I
don't.
can only shoot one roach at a time, so I can't stop them all. So,
But you can even here you can harass. You can sort of poke up and run away because the Zerg player doesn't have roach speed, and you can see that by how slowly they move. So you can poke and then you're still able to get away. At least right now you're still able to get away with all your units, as long as you don't commit to a giant attack. And again, the other nice thing is, as a Terran player, you're putting on the aggression early game. Zerg, this Zerg isn't going to be able to, can't do anything like a counterattack or anything like that because they've got their hold up in their natural. So their main. So you're free to do whatever you want back home.
absolutely. And when he pushes out, he should have speed. If this was a normal game, he would have speed. So
Yes.
I would have a very hard time getting these units home. However, that is not the case because, of course, roaches are the same speed. I highly doubt he's. Okay, he's got hydras, which are just the same speed.
Yep. See, the cool thing here is, okay, so Pew is losing a unit or two, but A, he knows exactly when his opponent's moving out. B, he knows exactly what the composition is. And C, he's able to deal a little bit of damage as he moves on. And the other thing you notice is Pewee wasn't he wasn't sending he wasn't just rallying all his units to the front, right? He had a small contingent of Marauders early on in the game that were at the front of the base, and everything else, all the rest of the army is back home, being built back home. So he's still safe. Leading with the Marauders out front, and
I just chill.
actually this might work. This might work. And a beautiful feature, of course, of the bunker is that it can be repaired. So you can... You are a daring soul, Pewee. Yeah, insta-cancel.
Base is under attack.
What's going on? You want a piece of me, boy?
You see Pewee sees the Zerg player at Pewee's third, potential third. And so he immediately pulls 7 SCVs to repair the bunker. Because if he can keep those bunkers alive, then he saves all the units within. And he can, it makes it much easier to defend and then also do a counterattack on the way back. Tries to retreat. And Zerg just decides it's... Oh, Zerg is right though. Zerg is going to pull back because you're doing harassment in the main.
Yeah.
Very nice. Somehow I missed that. This is why I'm not an observer. I'm a terrible observer. Alright.
Research complete.
So, 4 or 5 Marauders got 9 drone kills and caused the whole Zerg's army to pull back.
And a couple of roaches.
And a couple of roaches.
And a few seedlings. So,
Right.
definitely
So,
very good.
Yeah, very good. I mean, that speaks to sort of Terran's the ability for Terran to be really cost efficient. Also, it speaks to the AI just being bad, but that's also
Yeah.
aside.
But this is still so much better than, new players at the game.
Yes, very true.
Base is under attack.
And of course, Pewee is sandwiching the units from both sides. And he has to. So he's using Stim, which is really increasing his DPS plus his ability to chase the units because it increases his movement speed. The one danger right now is that Pewee doesn't have any medevacs. So every time he stims, that's permanent damage to his army until he can get medevacs out. So he does have to be a little bit careful as he pushes across because his units are already a lot weaker.
Insufficient
Yeah.
vesting.
Thankfully, I do have
Insufficient Vespene
some
gas.
medics coming out.
Research. Not enough energy.
Whoa.
Insufficient
Pew, when did
Vespene
your
gas.
minerals get so high? What?
Insufficient
When I
Vespene
run out of gas.
Upgrade.
I normally
Oh, it's
don't.
because you've got in your main only one of your reactors has, the refineries has three SCVs. One of them has one.
Yeah.
That would do it. Of course, Pew's also have upgrades. Got his third up. I mean, it's now a 3 base to barely 2 base. Not even really a 2 base.
Add-on complete.
The Zerg AI really loves its burrow.
Add-on complete.
So the other thing is just as a tactical decision, even if, let's say, Pew were to lose this whole army right here, or most of it, which he doesn't, if he can snipe that hatch, it's still worth it because he's keeping a Zerg on one base, and that base is quickly getting mined out.
Insufficient Vespene
So
gas.
with Pewee being on 3, almost 4 bases, he can reproduce his army a lot quicker, and it just makes sense for him to try and keep the Zerg down on economy. Although really, Pew, you could just kill him any time.
Yeah, actually, I don't know why I'm not. Just waiting for my medivacs. Just like leave it late.
Ready for dust off.
I don't really build a lot of harvesters as Terran. That's one of my downfalls.
Yeah, you're at 53 right now. And Pew's gonna make the final push. Zerg really does love his burrow. So strange.
Oh, shoot.
Armed and ready. Go. I'm on it.
And he's gonna come down this route. Down this ramp. Terrible concave.
Right, terrible concave. Pewee has a choke point. And Pewee, all those units are funneling straight into Pewee's entire army. It's at all Pewee's army is ranged. That works out perfectly for him. And now his opponent has nothing. And Pewee goes in. GG any second now.
GG!
Perfect.
But yeah, normally you could smash them a bit harder than that.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
just like playing a bit defensive because you never know what the the Zerg AI will do. Ooh,
Very, very strange things.
right. Now it's your turn.
Alright, should I just stay with... I was going to go bio, but if you're going bio, maybe I should do mech.
If you want to give it a shot.
Yeah, terrible
Alright.
mech. Do mech.
Custom. Any map?
No, your choice. Except Zelnaga Caverns.
Yeah, I was going Onaha.
Okay.
I like Onaha.
Alright, that's
AI
fine with me.
and on invite.
Thank you.
Random. You ready?
Yep.
Yep. Let's
Alright.
do this.
I hardly ever go back, because I love as a personal preference, I love the ability to be really aggressive early on with bio, and I love the ability to constantly split a Zerg's attention by dropping to multiple places, although the Zerg AI doesn't, barely ever gets 2 base, but most Zerg players will go for much faster expansions, and so I love the ability of bio to just force their attention in a bunch of different places at once for very little units on my part. But I will try and go mech this game and just play incredibly defensive.
So, does that mean you're gonna expand first? Because the way I see it, if you go mech,
Yeah.
you're gonna be very, you're gonna have to get your gases obviously very fast to get your tanks to defend from the roaches with a bunker.
Exactly.
You're still gonna need a couple marines, of course. Maybe just 4 for the bunker. But this is what we were on about before, mech, one tank against 20, well, let's say 10, 15 roaches isn't really going to do much, even in siege mode. They can overrun you. And that's why you see mech, people playing mech just tail. You load up depots at the wall, just stop your opponent getting close to you and just take them out from far.
Right, because generally as a mech player, you're not looking to do... I mean, it's changing a lot. The metagame is changing a lot now, but
Yeah.
on one level, still, you're as a mech player, you're not looking necessarily to put on a lot of aggression. You're looking to keep yourself safe so you can get the max army you need, because that's when you become incredibly scary.
Yeah.
Like so with bio, you generally make a lot of small pushes in various directions, and there's a lot of small engagements. Mech, you typically make one giant push, and then that's
Mm-hmm.
make it or break it. But that one push is incredibly scary.
Oh yeah. Even as like I've seen it so many times. You're like, oh, I'm okay. I'll expand to every single base on the map. It don't matter. But no, you just can't kill a mech ball.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
That
siege
mech ball
tanks,
is
like 15 siege tanks in siege mode is just wow. And look at this. Interesting. He's going for a command center first into a Rax. And he's putting it at his front because he knows like it's safer at his front. It's a bigger wall to, you know, a bigger building to kill before he gets into his base. So it's very good.
cool. So I'm scouting inside. I see the Roach Warren already on the way. I see gas. Actually, no, I don't need that yet.
And back
He's
in your
taking
base we have the double gas. He's doing this so once the barracks finishes, he can throw down a factory nearly straight away. I'm not going to be able to do it straight away, but
No, not quite straight away, but it'll be.
good. Yeah. Off a CC first, it's okay. Is that a tight wall?
Nope.
No. I guess it's not so bad for against roaches. A bit stuff for minerals as well on your orbitals.
Yes, yes, I am.
So looking at this build, to anyone who's new to the game, we can clearly tell that Arn has. I'm guessing you've never done this build before.
This build?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have.
Well, I mean, I've done builds
Very similar.
similar to this. I don't. Generally, what I'll do is I'll go for an in-base expansion.
Yeah.
And play a lot more defensive. Get a lot of SCVs, but stay on one base a little bit longer. Here, so my wall off, I spend a lot less resources on my wall off.
Yeah.
I'm not used to spending quite this much on a wall off. And trying to get my factory out. So that
Yeah.
first tank is crucial.
And you are going for siege first, which takes a solid 80 seconds, which is all slow, so if your opponent was to move out across the map, soon you just about hit it.
Yeah.
And
But my thought is that for at least at my level, a single tank isn't without siege mode really isn't going to do much.
yeah.
So I'd
Absolutely.
rather make sure that I absolutely get siege mode so that even if my tank's a little bit delayed, when it comes out, I can instantly make it much
Yeah.
more.
Like at your level, or in like for this, I would definitely agree. It's like better be safe than sorry. One thing that you haven't done is re-rally both your CCs. Do you have less?
I do have less, but I guess I thought that I'm still not at optimal.
Yeah.
Well, now I am. Now I'm getting there.
But at the same time, you have to worry if there is a bust. You need SCVs to repair.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And of course, I get split locked.
Bad. Bad on. Ooh, supply drop.
Yeah, it's just.
Nice.
I know that attack is coming, so I sort of need to keep myself. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's one of those smaller, subtler things that you also need to think of is the fact that if I know an attack is coming, which is why I'm getting really fast siege tanks, and given that, I should be rallying all my SCVs over down to the natural, even though my main isn't fully saturated. If an attack comes, that repair is going to be huge.
Yes.
So I need all the SCVs I can, or I need to make sure I have enough SCVs to repair everything. So yeah, that's a good point. All right, now I should be fine. Pretty sure I'll be okay.
Of course, you're not going to know an attack is coming until you're under attack, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was hinting at there, guys, is, of course, just before this Marine came up, units would have to pretty much get to here before On spotted them, which is really bad because it's always better to prepare. It's always better to, have the SCVs there ready to repair. Another Marine does come out of the barracks and starts rallying across the map.
Yeah,
This
that's a
will
good point. I want
check
the even if I know the attack is coming, the more information I have about exactly what what the composition is or what angle it's coming from, just gives me more time to prepare for everything. So it's a good idea to have that, have those scouts out there. And anyway, I mean that was sort of my big concern was his first attack. Doing more damage than I thought it was.
As he is killing a few Marines, he gets the repair on the bunker, which is pretty much what you want. The bunker will always nearly be targeted first, so if you just keep that alive, they just lose all their units. And you actually have some good production going now. This is pretty much true mech. Your Marine's just a little bit out from the tower.
Yep. So since I'm playing so defensive, I'm not concerned. I'm not nearly as concerned about how fast he's expanding or what his army composition is. I still need to know, but I already have sort of set my path, and I know that I just need to be able to defend against anything he throws at me. And apparently, yeah.
Get them depots down, boy.
Yeah, thought two were already building, but apparently they were not.
Third CC coming up.
4 CC coming up.
Oh, snap, snap. We're gonna have a proper long game here.
I felt like it's mech. Should make it effort.
Look how sure the example of that mech is. Because at the moment, if he moved out, he only has 6 siege tanks. It's 12 minutes into the game, 6 siege tanks. Behind this we have 4 factories. So once these are up and coming, we got 4 Hellions per cycle and 2 tanks per cycle. And of course, it will move on to a lot more factories. So gas and resources a lot more starving for mech. Like gas is so important for mech. Normally you see a Terran like on 1 or 2 gases, but for mech you need every piece of gas you can get.
Yes. Why did I don't... Oh. This is why I don't go mech often.
Well,
It's making a whole bunch of mistakes.
I to be honest, I've never gone proper mech, but tanks are annoying, man. I've been playing with tanks, and it's just like I want to A move, but I can't because they don't move.
That's true. That is a problem with mech.
I have gotten into some situations though where I just had so many tanks that I could just A move with them out of siege and stomp.
Actually pretty impressive.
It was against the gold.
So now I'm just lining up tanks to secure my third.
Yep. Of course.
Yep.
I was gonna say mech is for those guys, for the people watching. Mech is, as I said earlier, it's very immobile. So he has tanks sieged up on the right back here, and then he has tanks sieged up still right back here. Just because if something happened by here, by the time you unsiege, move these up by here, siege them by here to defend, it could be too late.
Exactly.
And on seize the units, I hope, running across the map right now, they don't see you. So Marine lives to fight another day. And now we know, like, on it can pull some tanks back, change their positions, make sure everything's sieged. Tanks coming up here. Some Hellions into the fight. In the Hellions.
I would have been in trouble from a better player if it was the same attack, but the way the AI works.
Yeah.
Because so it's basically the tanks are great, but they're also really as long as there's some sort of fodder and buffer in between them and the rest of the army, and if they're exposed, they go down very quickly.
Yeah.
So as soon as that first bunker went down in that attack, the Zerg could have rushed in, that would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
But
and also the Zerg kind of attacked in a horrible fashion. It was just like an A move. Everything was in a line. It was just like, that's exactly what tanks like.
this is very true.
because for those watching, they came up in a straight line and then just into the main, up to the natural.
So, I mean, the other thing I'm vulnerable to is air.
Yep.
So what I'll do right now, just to be super safe, is throw down a scan in the main. I don't see anything. I see still in layer tech. I know that he just invested a lot into Roach Hydra, so I'm fairly confident I'm safe. But I'm gonna go check for bases now.
And we have more factories incoming. Go, go, go. 140 supply for CC.
Don't see anything. It is natural. I mean, it's third. I'm gonna go check. Yeah, there we go. So I see this. I'm gonna try and do some economic damage. Fine. So I lost those units, but that's still okay because the units I really don't want to lose are my Thors and my tanks. Those are the really expensive units.
I've never seen the
What is
AI do
this?
this.
What is this, man?
Siege
Alright.
those tanks before it's too late. Oh, one of them gets taken out. Oh no, it doesn't. That one does though. We got some Hellions coming in, of course. There are only Hydras here, so they get vaporized by Hellions. And that single Roach does. Burrow. Hey! And then unburrows immediately. So, one tank for, quite a few units there for a tank and like one or two Hellions. I've never seen the AI do that though. It was like one overload for a unit.
Yeah, he's doing funky stuff today.
Yeah.
Alright, well that's new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, 182, let's just move out.
Alright, the show moves past. So now, on is 196. He's hit that, whoa, critical mass of mech where it's a true death ball, really. And yeah, let's look at the unit count. Have you got all these tanks? Yeah, he's leaving a few as naturals just to defend. We do have a no engagement here. Tanks are now sieging up, and Hellions are taking a bit of damage. But as Arn brings the Hellions back, the Roaches are moving to tank range, and that's that. So you got 13 Hellions, 6 Thors, 14 tanks, 2 Marines, and you had 10 Hellions in production just a second ago.
So the other thing about a mech army is it's very gas intensive, not nearly as mineral intensive. So I don't need mules as much, which is why I've sort of been saving scans so that I don't want to. If I'm playing super safe, I don't want to run just send on my army straight up to his ramp without knowing what I'm up against.
Yeah.
So I can, instead of using a mule, I can throw down a scan and I see that I don't have anything to worry about. So I'll start moving my army up.
So many Hellions. It does look funny, Hellions. Tanks are moving up and getting range.
And tanks would allow me to keep moving forward. They zone off space very nicely.
Most of those drones were.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the humanity. GG. GG.
My Thor's didn't even come into play.
Just go kill the main. Huh.
Nah, too late.
No, too late.
Too late. Too late.
Too late, bro.
Too late. I'll accept the GG.
So yeah, guys, that is the end of this episode. This episode was number 11, and like we said, it was TVZ, just going over it quickly. Next week's episode is going to be TVT, which should be a bit more fun. I don't really know what the Terran will do against the Terran AI, so that'll be quite a lot of fun. So in the meantime, guys, until next week, just go check out our sponsors. Of course, we do have to thank BenQ for sponsoring this show, and of course Definitive Esports for producing it and all that. So go check us out at desports.com and benq.com. Anything else to add? add on?
No, I don't think so. I think you summed it up very well. Again, obviously a huge thank you to BenQ and of course to DE Sports. And I guess we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, definitely. So there we are, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week. Bye bye.